Well, hello there, everyone. I wanted to talk about Chapter 2, which is another essential sort of chapter for this novel. Each chapter certainly is very important. Chapter 1 is something that you're going to have to quote from. I mean, it is about a sixth of the entire book by itself. So it is one of the most essential chapters in the book. The second one is, of course, Chapter 5, which is the ending. Very, very important ending here in this book. But chapter 2, chapter 3, and chapter 4 are also very important depending on what it is that you want to focus on. And the way that I have it set up, as you can see in my book here, I created 6 parts. So I'm going to try to do a part for each video for each section. So the first part is obviously going to be about the anthropologist is missing. Where the hell did the anthropologist go? We find this right away on page 37, because there's no real page 36. She talks about how it is that she woke up with her senses feeling heightened. So that's very uncanny in a way, right? Because think about it. Do you remember in chapter 1 how she felt kind of dizzy and how everyone felt sort of out of place and very much like trying to assimilate into a new environment? She has well adapted already. And with these spores inside of her body, it's even more so. Even the woodpecker came to me as a kind of minor revelation, right? So this heightened sense of awareness is definitely something very important. But my reverie was soon tempered by disastrous news. The anthropologist was gone, her empty of her personal effects. Worse, in my view, the psychologist seemed shaken, as if she hadn't slept. She was squinting oddly. Her hair more windblown than usual. I noticed dirt caked on the sides of her boots. She was favoring her right side, as if she had been injured. "Where is the anthropologist?" the surveyor demanded. "What have you done with the anthropologist?" Again, this power struggle is going to really kind of be emphasized in chapter 2, because now that the anthropologist is gone, there's only one possible explanation. Clearly, the psychologist did something with the anthropologist that maybe she wasn't supposed to have done. And it's very funny that in order to kind of hide what happens, the psychologist started into a rising panic with the strange assertion, "I talked to her late last night." What she saw in that structure, notice she doesn't call it a tower or a tunnel or a building, she calls it a structure, unnerved her to the point that she did not want to continue with this expedition. She has started back to the border to await extraction. She took a partial report with her so that our superiors will know our progress. The psychologist's habit of allowing a slim smile, again, this is the third or fourth time that this has come up already, to cross her face at inappropriate times made me want to slap her. Hoo-ah! Not good. "But she left her gear, her gun too," the surveyor said. "She only took what she needed, so we would have more, including an extra gun." I was truly curious. In some ways, I found the psychologist as fascinating as the tower. Her motivations, her reasons. Why not resort to hypnosis now? There are some things that maybe cannot be undone in this case, right? And of course, the psychologist knows that she's screwed up. And it's very funny because at this point, they are going to be given a choice. That is, the biologist and the surveyor are going to be given a choice. Are they going to accept the answer of the psychologist, or are they going to fight her on it? And at the bottom of page 38, that's why the biologist says, "We had a choice now. We could accept the psychologist's explanation," this is page 39, "for the anthropologist's disappearance, or reject it. If we rejected it, then we were saying the psychologist had lied to us, and therefore also rejecting her authority at a critical time." Speaking of power struggle, let's stop there. Choice. first time we see that kind of come up, right? Accept. To accept is a choice, right? You can either accept it or you can reject it. So that's why she's saying the choice is that we could accept it or reject it. Lied to us. When someone lies to you, usually your choice is not to believe them, right? Because you're going to reject what they say. However, rejecting her also gets rid of this word authority. Authority is another critical term for power, right? And control. When someone's in authority, that means they're exerting their control over the situation. In other words, she's not performing her function, therefore they're questioning her function. And that's probably the last thing the leader wants you to do is question them as a leader. And if we tried to follow the trail back home, hoping to catch up with the anthropologist, would we have the will to return to base camp afterward? The answer is probably not. The psychologist said we should continue with our plan. We should investigate the tower. The word tower in this context felt like a blatant plea for my loyalty. Okay, let's stop there for a second. So, why is that important? She's purposely using the word tower because she knows that's exactly how the biologist sees it, and therefore she's pleading with the psychologist, please, I know this doesn't sound right. Just give me this once, please. This alarmed me in another way. Why? Because, and here she says it, I was not going to leave Area X before investigating the tower. This fact was ingrained in every part of me. The question is why? Why does she want to investigate the tower so bad? What makes her motivated to want to figure out the unknown? Is it because she's the biologist? Is it because of her husband? Or is it for some other reason? Her motivations sometimes are very suspect to me. I'm always trying to find out what is she really trying to say here? How can you really trust her? Again, she's adapting to the situation. All right, let's keep going. And then they decide to accept her answer, at least for now. And then the biologist says, she's right, we should continue with the mission. Not because she necessarily agrees with the psychologist, but because she wants to continue observing the tower. Motivations matter. Okay, now I call this, can't see that there. I call this Tower Day 2 on the second page here. Tower Day 2. Whoa, okay. It's really hard to see these things in reverse order. Tower Day 2. This is actually their third attempt going inside. But this one's going to be very important because a situation is going to come up. And the situation changes yet again. The surveyor and I had ready light packs with enough food and water to supply the full day down there. We had both our weapons. We had both donned our breathing masks to keep out the spores, but the psychologist stood on the grass just beyond the circle of the tower slightly below us and said, I'll stand guard here. Against what? I asked, incredulous. Did you hear that in my voice? Like, what? Wait a minute, what? What do you mean you are going to be up here and we're going to be down there? I wanted her embedded in the risk of the exploration, not standing at the top, with all of the power over us implied by that position. And I put a symbol of authority. This is definitely a symbol of authority. This is a great quote to use if you're going to talk about power and control. Because the word stand guard here, she says, against what? I did not want to let the psychologist out of my sight. I wanted her embedded. Embedded means put into the risk of the exploration. If the surveyor goes down, the biologist goes down, so too should the psychologist. If she doesn't run the risk of being injured. Also, by standing at the top and them being below, she's the one with all the power because let's just say she attacks them, or they think they have to attack her. Who has the upper advantage? If you need to find out, ask the people in the Civil War what happened. Those people that were in the top of the mountains shooting from the top down ended up winning the war, aka the Union. So that was it's very important that the people at the top often show the symbol of power, but also have a physical advantage as well, because they can aim downwards and their ability to shoot downwards is a lot easier than someone trying to run up a hill. So that's very important. The surveyor wasn't happy either, in an almost pleading way that suggested a high level of suppressed stress. She said, "You're supposed to come with us. It's safer with three. But you need to know that the entrance is secured," the psychologist said, sliding a magazine into her handgun. Magazine, not meaning a magazine like a book, but a magazine for a weapon. The surveyor's grip on her assault rifle tightened until I could see her knuckles whiten. "You need to come down with us." And then she says once again, a sort of hypnotic suggestion. "There's no reward in the risk of all of us going down." And again, it's very interesting that Vandermeer is very specific about the phrase that is meant to control them, which is reward in the risk. There's a bunch of R's in there. Reward in the risk. In other words, she's telling them, you're going to listen to what I have to say. And from the inflection, I recognized a hypnotic command. The surveyor's grip on her rifle loosened. Oh, what? The features of her face became somehow indistinct for a moment, like she's listening, right? "You're right," the surveyor said. "Of course you're right. It makes perfect sense." So now we see the effect that it has had on the surveyor, but now the psychologist is going to look at the biologist. A twinge of fear traveled down my back. Now it was 2 against 1. I thought about that for a moment, took in a full measure of the psychologist's stare as she focused her attention on me. And, of course, she said, "It's not that important." After a moment, "You're as valuable to us up here as down there." And so what she's doing is she's trying to once again mimic and adapt to the situation. Because if she doesn't, if she says, "No, no, that's not right," then the psychologist knows that she is no longer under her hypnotic control, and therefore either needs to be removed, or she's going to say, "How come you're not listening to my hypnotic suggestions?" So there's a lot of things going on right now. So the power struggle is real, and the biologist is purposely hiding herself like an animal, like a chameleon of some sort. So it's very interesting. Okay, so this next part here is when they actually go down into the tower tunnel, and when they find out a little bit more about what's going on. And this is on page 41. First off, she finds out, that is, the psychologist finds out, that this is no tower tunnel. Vandermeer, if you remember what Vandermeer had said in his annotation, he said this tower tunnel may look or appear like a tunnel, but it's definitely not. It's something other. And that's when we find out here, and she calls it, the tower was a living creature of some sort. We were descending into an organism. Oh my gosh. That would be like Pinocchio being stuck inside of a whale. What would you see inside of a whale? Whoa, scary, man. So that's when she starts to really freak out, because she can feel the vibrations on the wall as if the creature is breathing. So the creature is breathing, it's going, and she's like, "Can't you feel that?" "Feel what? What are you talking about?" That's when the surveyor has been so hypnotically conditioned that she cannot see what's really there. So the questions of reality are something very important in this novel. I took a deep breath, and I'm skipping here. You can't see what is there, I thought. So, the surveyor was now surrounded by a corona of the white phosphorescence from the walls. Nothing was receding, nothing was leaving me. Then we'll go on, the surveyor said, but only if you promise to tell me if you see anything unusual again. I almost laughed at that, I remember. Unusual? Like strange words on a wall, written among tiny communities of creatures of unknown origin? Says, okay, fine. And so now I'm on page 43. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is her childhood flashback, which is very interesting that she inserts it at a time like this. So that will be the next part of the video. Thank you.